Hello everyone and welcome to the Jefferson Chamber's Vision and Voice series sponsored by Atmos Energy. I'm pleased to be joined here today with Parish President Cynthia Sheng to discuss Recreation Reimagined. Thank you so much for being here today, Parish President Sheng. How are you doing?
Thank you, Ruth. Thank you for having me.
Good.
Oh, wow.
Good.
Busy.
Well, great. Well, so earlier this fall, thank you for joining us. Earlier this fall, the parish announced Recreation Reimagined, and that was a plan to revitalize playgrounds and youth sports. Can you give us a little background of the plan, how it came to be, kind of the history of different recreation departments y'all looked at across the country?
So what it is we kind of tackled this, and I think it's been a long time in coming. And in a nutshell, we have 27 playgrounds. Our demographics have changed over the decades, right? And so we're a much older community in Jefferson Parish, older than national averages. And what we've seen over time, and look, I grew up through JPRD. I grew up in the 70s. At that time, I think we were still building playgrounds, and the playgrounds were packed.
Right.
I grew up at Lakeshore. It was just crowded. My every memory of that was just crowded fields, crowded gyms. But over time, we've seen with the demographic changes, we're overbuilt.
Okay.
And so when you look at quality programming in sports, it always is related to high volume. You need to have a number of teams to form a league, and high volume meaning you can take in a beginner at the sport and take it all the way to a higher level of skill. So what we see is that our programming, depending on what playground you're assigned to, our programming is not even across the parish. If you're going to a playground that is a very high volume, it's very robust, the scheduling is there, not a lot of forfeited games, good competition.
Right.
If you're assigned to a playground that is just struggling in terms of the numbers, you might not even get to field a team. Your parents are going to have to drive you to another playground to join another league. A lot of forfeited games, and we realized that's just our programming isn't even across the board, but we're not giving a level of programming to many kids in Jefferson Parish that they deserve, and that's ultimately what we're trying to do. So that was one of the things is deal with overbuilt for our programming
And inefficiencies.
Right, and just not having a good, because my belief is that if a parent and a child have a bad experience at a sport, they're not coming back. Maybe the child isn't really into sports, maybe they're more of a music child or drama or something else, play video games, but we want every encounter with Jefferson Parish to be a positive one for the whole family. And we weren't doing that. I know we could do better. The other thing is that, when I was coming up, recreation was strictly recreation. Well, now you have to look at it. A good portion of recreation is about business and the addition of club sports over the years. And what we've seen, not that we don't love club, I'm a club parent, I ran one of my own clubs at some point, but we lose children when they get to a certain level of expertise, or they just love that sport and they want to play that sport all year long, and we only play sports in Jefferson Parish maybe 2 to 3 months, and then you can't play it. So if you love basketball and you can only play it 2 to 3 months of the year, you go find a club, but you're done with in JPRD just for that. So we lose kids to club sports. So if you're a child that loves it so much and you want to try to make your high school team and you want to start playing it more frequently and get your skill higher and get coached more throughout the year, we lose those kids to club.
Right.
And club is expensive. I mean, for any of us who've paid for club, it's expensive. And so we wanted to look at, can we give that level of expertise to a sport at some of our facilities, because clearly we have the buildings to do so. We have the programming room to be able to do that. So that was another thing we were trying to look at. And then we just want to make sure we program that we have space for new sports.
New sports.
Not just the traditional ones, but new sports. So if you look up what is the most popular sport in America, pickleball. It's pickleball. Have
Right.
you played yet?
I have not.
I have not either.
He's just announced a big
Yes.
merger of a pickleball.
Yes, exactly. So we get a lot of requests for pickleball. Right now, our pickleball players are playing on tennis courts, not making the tennis people really happy. So we have space to build more tennis courts and more pickleball courts. So we need to do this. So in general, it's just reprogramming and making sure in Jefferson Parish, we all pay a millage for recreation to make it as strong as possible and to make sure we're not leaving any kid behind. And that really was the impetus for us doing this.
Okay. So there's a few things there. I guess the whole sporting world has changed. Like, not only is it the club sports and the traveling leagues, but also the type of sports that are played that weren't captured, I'm assuming, at all of our playgrounds and our parks.
Exactly.
So there's several different things that you're
many things, many reasons that we tackled this.
So what were the goals, I guess, originally of Recreation Reimagined? You know, what did you pursue or see differently that other areas weren't doing, and how long has it been since we've changed our recreation programming?
So we haven't changed our recreation programming in decades. I mean, we've kind of had the same recreation programming. So I think that, you know, there's agreement that something needs to be done. Right. But I think we underestimated what a nerve we were going to be hitting to do this. Like, for us, it seemed like it made perfect sense. But I also understand because, you know, I will say one of the most formative pieces of my childhood was my running track at Lakeshore. Like, you're kind of messing with people's childhood memories, right? When you're saying, we're going to go change this up, you know? So I think we underestimated the power of that, but we changed that to help us to give it, you know, as an advantage on that front. So we looked at there's probably more playgrounds, maybe even a dozen playgrounds that are low volume, but we looked at 6 what we say low volume playgrounds, playgrounds that were just struggling to maybe field a team. And we looked at, you know, some suggestions or some concepts of reprogramming those playgrounds. And we went through 6 different community meetings at these playgrounds. And it was covered a lot by the media, you know, and we just got finished them probably in the last couple days. First week of November, we finished our last one. We went all through October, first week of November. And what Mario and I realized, and we stayed the entire time, we listened to everyone, we were the last ones to leave, is this notion of what recreation means to the community. And I think we kind of tried to solve a problem and maybe didn't realize how important that was to each community and how unique that was to each community. So we have steering committees at all of those playgrounds, and we're looking at what we can do to improve it, which actually just the other day I went to Lemon Playground, which was one of our first playgrounds, and we realized how important that was to that community. And we said, look, let's not just look at this for the kids, let's look at it for adults. What can this whole community do at Lemon? And we had a Saints watch party, and we played pickleball, and it was just a great time. And that's what Recreation Reimagined is about. Just not doing the traditional things that we've done for decades, and let's rethink this.
And bringing communities together.
Bringing communities together.
So you had mentioned, I know, you know, in the media and at these community outreach meetings, there was some public backlash, and whether that was unique to different communities or, you know, did you find the same issues kind of resonating with each of the communities, and how did you navigate those?
I think overall there was the same concern, is that you're changing something on us, and they wanted to make sure they had a say-so in that, and the feedback was listened to and considered, and that certainly was the case. I think in some cases it's different. You know, you had neighborhoods where just the neighborhood had aged out, the people had grown up, and then you have neighborhoods where it had aged out, but maybe more newer families were moving in. So in a couple years, those, you know, 3- and 4-year-olds are going to be able to be at our playgrounds. You know, Lafitte was different. The demographics, Lafitte was different because they're still rebuilding from Ida. So, you know, they want their programming back, and they're having to start from scratch, and we're re-looking at what sports we're going to do there. But that was a unique situation in Lafitte. So I think everyone was a little different, but across the board, what we've done is re-engage the community, and we have so many more people joining the booster clubs. And, you know, if booster clubs are to boost the enrollment, we have, you know, new people and new energy across the board at all these playgrounds, and that's the good thing about what's been happening. And just getting in, having those community meetings out in the field is what I say is we've really done some great things.
That's wonderful. So after these community meetings, you had mentioned some steering committees. What's next? What are the plans to go forward to kind of keep the public involved and make sure that, I guess, their concerns are met or at least discussed?
Well, the first concern that I think we heard across the board is they want their opportunity for traditional sports. Okay. So they don't want to lose that. They don't want to be assigned to another playground. You know, they want to do that. So we're going to help them boost their numbers to do that. Okay. If you don't get your numbers, you have to be assigned to another playground because your child needs to play somewhere, right? But I think that's our first initiative is, if you say you want your traditional sports in that community, like help us boost the numbers up so we can field a team at your local playground.
Is there a certain date they have to kind of get to these
Yes.
numbers to be able to field a team?
Yeah, and every sport, every season we have days that we backtrack and say, let's start here, and this is what's kind of, with their help, the booster support help, we're going to go out to the churches, we're going to go out to the schools, we're going to say, let's help you, we'll help you boost our numbers, but you have to help us too. Right. And see if you can meet your number, and if not, well, we will have to put you in a league at another playground, just because we've got to make sure the child is able to play. So that's one of the things. And then the other thing is, let's start some second season somewhere. We made a commitment we're not going to take anything away.
Okay.
So, can we have a second basketball season so the kid who loves basketball can play basketball again?
Okay. And not have to go to that
and
club sport.
not do that. We're doing that with softball right now. We're having, the second innings with that. So I think that's a way of easing us into a year-round sports, is starting these second seasons, and you can play longer in the year.
Great.
And then new sports, I've been booed a lot of times when I brought up pickleball. It was the joke, like, Cynthia, don't talk about pickleball. But
I think you must love pickleball, right?
I know, and I've never played it, but I know, we see ourselves in Jefferson Parish as a progressive parish.
Right.
And, for me as the parish president, when I say the number one sport or the biggest growing sport in America is pickleball, of course I'm looking at my recreation director like, why don't we have pickleball sports, right? I mean, that's just, so, and we do have people who want to play pickleball, and I'm going to try soon myself. And so we need to find space for more tennis courts. That is our biggest wait, is we started family tennis.
Okay.
And we have a huge waiting line for that, and that's being done at Bright. And so we want to build on what's already successful for us right now. And I think it's not just tennis, but the ability to play a sport with your child is something that I think that's why that's so much in demand.
Right.
So then in pickleball too, we need to find pickleball courts and cornhole and all these new sports that we want to bring.
Yeah, that maybe necessarily people even knew about.
Right.
Yeah. Well, interesting. So I guess when we look towards the future, and these, I think you've identified at least 6 different communities that maybe couldn't field a team, or the numbers weren't there. Are we looking, I know the original plan was maybe add some additional sports at those different communities or different playgrounds. Is that still kind of on the table? Or, I think archery was something that was mentioned. Is that something that still, the communities are interested in, and that the recreation department is interested in?
Yeah, I definitely think so. And I think we'll get there through the steering committees. We need to get away from the model of the same programming at 27 playgrounds.
Right.
And some are successful and some aren't, right? And we need to start changing it up a little bit and saying, well, maybe this playground is going to focus more on tennis because tennis is popular here. There's a lot of tennis courts, but still not take away the traditional sports that they might want to make sure they can still play. And we do have space to be able to make all of that happen.
Right.
Each playground has a different footprint and different strengths and weaknesses, but there are certain things that we're going to be able to do, and you're going to see hopefully get to year-round sports somewhere.
Well, good. Well, I know that you've made your rounds, and it's been a long process, and I know you'll still have a lot going forward. And one thing that was mentioned at our Leadership Jefferson program, which I know that you spoke to our class about, is they were so impressed. They had some questions about Recreation Reimagined as well, but they were so impressed with your leadership ability of, look, you introduced this. It necessarily didn't get all the public comment that you wanted, all the positivity, but you pivoted and you made sure that everybody's concerns were addressed, and they said that was a true sign of a leader. So
that was nice.
We're very grateful for your leadership on this. I know it necessarily hasn't been easy, but we look forward to kind of what's to come in the future, and if there's any way that the chamber can help, we'd be happy to.
Thank you for being there for us all the time. And look, I'll go back and I'll say, recreation for me as a child was very critical in my life. And that's really Mario as well. And both of us raised kids. His boys played baseball. My children were volleyball. We just want to give that opportunity to every kid in Jefferson Parish. I know what it did to me in terms of family, career, giving me the strength and the courage to move on after you lose, showing you how well you do if you work really hard. All these principles that you use in your adult life, you can see that in sports with children.
Right.
And so that's all we're trying to do is give that to everybody. So that's why we're in it. We weren't quitting. We're still going to be in it, and we're going to make some good improvements and make it a really robust recreation program for the entire parish.
Wonderful. Well, where can they go? Where can residents go to kind of learn more about it, or do they go to their different playgrounds within their communities?
Yeah. So JPRD, you can go on our website, and we have they've been really creative in pushing, have an app, have email, have newsletters. We just put out a hard copy recreation guide in Spanish for the first time. We do, there's just a lot of innovative things. So check us out, jprd.com. You can go to our
social page too, right?
We have social Facebook pages. Yeah. So they're really taking the social media and an app too, so that if you get on a team at a playground, your coach can communicate with you via texting and through the app. So
I know how much that's used.
Right, exactly.
Well, I encourage everyone to go out and follow Jefferson Parish's social media platforms, but also the Recreation Department. I love seeing the picture of y'all Saints watch party. I know that was a really good time yesterday.
Yes.
So thank you so much, Parish President Cynthia Sheng. We appreciate your leadership on this. We look forward to it. I know that, since it hasn't been looked at in decades, it's something that needs to be focused on and something that's so important to our community. So we appreciate your time here today to kind of explain everything.
Thank you, and thank you for all you do for us. We partner really well with you and representing the business community. You've been good partners with us, and I think that's why Jefferson Parish is so strong. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you, Parish President Cynthia Sheng. And thank you again to Atmos Energy for sponsoring this, our Vision and Voice series. We look forward to seeing you again, and we hope everyone has a happy Thanksgiving.